So this is still 2019. I've been tracking. It is. 2018 got away from me, so I've been tracking 2019. We are in the 6th week of our Fall Reflections program. We are studying by Deepak Chopra, and hopefully you're getting to participate in small groups. And I have this vision of deep friendships forming, a lot of love exchanged, conversations that you can't have anywhere else happening. And if you're missing out on that, hopefully you can do that next year. But it's a good thing to be able to sit down and talk about the things that are most important to us, the things that live in our hearts. So the book is the Book of Secrets, Unlocking the Hidden Dimensions of Your Life. And I've gotten feedback over the last couple days that sometimes, for a few minutes here and there, the book is a little bit too hard. If that's the case, there is this art of read what you like and leave the rest. I have a PhD, I have a couple master's degrees, and there is no way on earth I would have gotten there had I tried to read every word. It's always the art of zooming in on the part that speaks to you and holding that and letting go of the rest. There are no Fall Reflections police making sure you've read every single word. Let it be fun. Let it be joy-filled, and get what you can out of it. And don't ever let it be a struggle, okay? You don't even have to tell your group leaders, I didn't read that page. No one will know. So we're celebrating colors each week. Today is purple. It is a spiritual color. It's a color of creativity. It's an uplifting color. It's linked to royalty and nobility. It's linked to the crown chakra. It is the color of our power, our spiritual power. So it's a good color. It's a lot easier than orange, I hear. Again, this is just for the fun of it. If you don't want to participate in our colors, that's fine. That's just fine. So today we're talking about the now moment, which is a very important thing to notice, to take time to look at, because it's the only moment we have. There is no other moment. Sometimes we get lost in the future. We worry about what if this and what if that and what if another thing, and then we replay all the what ifs. Or sometimes we get stuck in the past. Have you ever had the experience where you think back on a conversation, one that kind of creates a knot in your stomach, so you re-script it? Because if you would have said just the right thing, life would have been very different and that pain wouldn't come up in your stomach. And once you re-script it, you rehearse it over and over and over and over until it feels right, except it's over. It's too late. I'm here, I'm immersed in this book, and earlier this week with Women of Unity, we did a workshop on mindfulness and being in the now moment. And when I was getting ready for that workshop, I realized, not often, but every now and again, there's this conversation that comes up for me, and I keep re-scripting it. I've gotten it down to perfect, but I rehearse it. But this conversation happened more than 35 years ago, and I'm still letting it come up. How many people have ever done that? Yeah, okay. It gets us nowhere. It really gets us nowhere. It is the now moment that has the opportunity to feel joy, opportunity for laughter, opportunity for creativity, the opportunity to connect with each other. All of that is the gift of the now moment. Deepak Chopra, in this book we're studying, said you race through your life as if you haven't time to spare, only to find at the end that you always had eternity. Right? Isn't that true? Or Eckhart Tolle, the only thing that is ultimately real about your journey is the step that you are taking right now, in this moment. That is all there ever is. So it would be wonderful if we could be there for this moment. One of my favorite quotes that captures this, and again I'm borrowing from what we did in the workshop, is from James Joyce. He wrote in one of his short stories, Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body. How many people have had the experience of being a short distance from their body? Yeah, so you can relate to this, right? And we can be a short distance from our body by being totally distracted in this moment. So this moment is happening and we have the potential for being present for it, but we're lost in something. Or we miss the moment by going into the future and worrying, or going into the past and regretting. Our culture really supports us in missing the present moment. For example, how present do you feel when you're lost in your phone? How connected do you feel when you and the people around you are on their phones? Right? Or if that doesn't pull you out of the present moment, there's always this. And that pile of work or the thousands of emails. Or what about this? And that present moment and the next present moment, they all come and go, and you've missed them. Or I've missed them. We all do this to some degree. And if that's not enough, how about this? How many people are fully present when they're in a traffic jam? How many people are aware of their breath and they're in their body and they're fully present, know who they are on I-80? Narayan is, so yeah, good. So mindfulness is a pathway to learning how to be more present. It is a practice. It is a practice that reminds us to be present for the moment. And we can practice mindfulness many ways. With the women, we had an exercise where they got to know either a cashew or a craisin and then ate it. And it became an existential challenge to get to know this cashew, to become friends with it, and then to eat it. Well, when we are aware of what we are doing, when we are aware of what we are holding in our hands, when we come to know it, we experience our actions differently. So we can practice mindful eating. We can practice mindful walking, just being aware of each step. I've told you many times how much I love to go to the beach and just walk the beach. And one of the big reasons I love it so much is it is a mindful activity for me. I'm aware of where I am. I like to take my shoes off so I could feel the sand and feel the water. And I see the horizon and I feel my oneness with it. So that walking becomes a very present moment experience. And I am different in that moment. I am more of what I want to be and can be. There are mindful movement practices, Tai Chi and yoga, all that are ways of being aware and present in our bodies. And they're endless. Some people running is a mindfulness exercise. And then, of course, there's mindful meditation practice. All of those, as we practice, we come back into the awareness of the present moment. I remember one time a while ago, someone recommended to me that I wear a rubber band on my wrist. And that rubber band would remind me to come back to the present moment. Well, I did one better. I have this bracelet that I almost never take off. And it is a Mobius strip. Does everyone know what a Mobius strip is? It's the inside becomes the outside. I don't know if you could make it out. Okay? So for the meaning of that is that which is within is also what expresses outwardly. And it's a good reminder to me to go within. And the words on the bracelet are the Buddhist blessing that we say Wednesday evenings after our meditation. It says, "May I be blessed. May all beings be blessed." So it reminds me of that meditation practice. So instead of a rubber band, every time I see this bracelet, I try to remember to come back into the present moment. And sometimes it works, and it becomes part of a practice. If you like rubber bands, that would work too. Mindfulness cannot be defined easily. It's like love. It would take days and days to really wrap our brains around it. But these qualities typically are assigned to it, and I think they're good. It's the quality of being aware. It's a focus on the present moment. It's acceptance or non-judgment of what is. Acceptance doesn't mean I have to like what is. It's simply honoring the fact that it is and not resisting it, simply accepting that it is and not judging. And it's a way of being. When we do mindfulness meditation, the practice is, well, it can be a little different, but almost all schools that teach it begin with a mindfulness of the breath, paying attention to the movement of the breath and how it feels. And then following the breath, and then if our mind wanders, if we drift away, to not judge. So if we practice that in meditation in our day-to-day life, we can also apply it. I have the intention to, stay in my budget this week, right? And then there's this really great blouse that I like, or this restaurant I want to go to, and there goes the budget. And then I notice, and I go, oh, and I come back to my intention. But the key is to do that without judging, without criticizing, and just coming back and continuing the practice. I believe that piece of it, that part where we are aware and are without judgment, is the key to the many, many benefits that a mindfulness practice brings us. Because every time we criticize ourselves, every time we get down on ourselves, there are hormones, chemicals released in the body that are not good for us. Not good for us. They're okay for brief moments. But if we linger with that judgment, It's not good for our health, it's not good for our well-being, it's not good for our spiritual and psychological evolution. So that practice of being present, being aware, and not judging is the heart of what a mindfulness practice is about. Mindfulness as a practice began a long time ago with spiritual teachers, thousands of years ago, and the Buddha taught mindfulness. But in order to have it take off in the United States the way it has, it had to be presented as a secular, a non-religious practice. And a man, John Kabat-Zinn, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, is given credit for bringing it into mainstream U.S. society. And I'd like you to listen to what he has to say about it just a minute.
Mindfulness is actually a way of connecting with your life. And it's something that doesn't involve a lot of energy. It involves kind of cultivating attention in a particular way. So the way I define it is it's paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And then I like to add sometimes as if your life depended on it. Because it does. Attention is the faculty that allows us to navigate our lives in one way or another and to actually know what's happening or know that we don't know what's happening and find ways to be in a wiser relationship to things that are going on in our lives than being at the mercy, say, of our own emotional reactions and crazy thoughts and fears and so forth. So it's paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, as if your life depended on it. So paying attention to what, you might ask? Well, it doesn't actually matter. It's the attending itself that's important, more important than what it is that you're paying attention to. But that said, if you start to pay attention to how much attention we pay to anything, you begin to notice that the mind is all over the place. It never sits still. It's got this idea and that opinion and this reaction, and we spend a huge amount of time planning and worrying about the future, and a huge amount of time reminiscing about the past and who did what to whom, or why it worked out this way, or why it didn't work out this way. And the present moment, which is the only time that we're ever alive in, the only time we could learn anything, express any kind of love or emotion, the only time we could be in our own body, the only time we can see or hear or smell or taste or touch or communicate, is now. And yet the present moment gets completely squeezed out by all of our preoccupation with the future and the past. When we start to pay attention to our own mind and our own body, it's like reclaiming your life.
It's worth doing, reclaiming our lives. It's worth being present for our lives. Another thing that John Kabat-Zinn had to say was, too often we focus on the urgent and miss the important. Isn't that true? And he also explains some of the benefits of mindfulness. Mindfulness can transform your life and be profoundly healing. And it does that by working on the entire organism, from your chromosomes to your cells to your brain. It affects all organ systems within the body, including the immune system, the brain activity under stress, and how we regulate emotion. I know that when I maintain my mindfulness meditation practice, and I hear this from other people, that it is easier to move through the events of life. It is easier to deal with the circumstances that come up. Research really backs the benefits of mindfulness. Everything that John Kabat-Zinn listed there even the way our chromosomes activate or don't activate, the way our genes activate or don't activate is impacted by mindfulness practice. You know, there are certain conditions where we are taught that there is a genetic component, but very rarely is it 100%. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard of anything that is. It's maybe 50. If this is a genetically transmitted condition, 50%, maybe 25% of the children of parents transmitting it will end up showing that same characteristic. And what we've learned is that those genes might be present but don't activate. Whether or not we have a mindfulness practice can influence that in a major way. John Kabat-Zinn said that mindfulness practice impacts our immune system. Can you think of any health condition that it isn't affected by our immune system? I mean, across the board. All of the autoimmune diseases, the allergies, the asthmas, the eczemas, on and on and on. Cancer is impacted by our immune system. Cardiac disease is impacted by our immune system. And if it's not our immune system, it's stress. And mindfulness mediates stress. There is a documentary that's called Mindfulness Goes Mainstream. And it's a PBS documentary, and I couldn't take snippets out of it. I wish I could have, because they were fabulous. But in there, they interviewed heads of corporations. Aetna was one of them. And the head of Aetna had a health challenge. And he ended up improving his situation through mindfulness practice, and he brought it to the corporation. He had all of his employees learn mindfulness. And after a year of this, the health costs to Aetna were reduced by 17%. Insurance companies like Aetna self-insure their employees for health insurance so they can track what's happening with the costs. 17% less healthcare costs through a mindfulness practice. It's in hospitals, it's in prisons. In prisons, they find that people rehabilitate to a greater degree than without a mindfulness practice. In hospitals, people recover quicker from surgeries, from illnesses. And in the professional ball, they're not companies, what are teams, professional ball teams, they're taught mindfulness to improve their performance. So it's huge, but it makes sense because what it means is we're present for our lives. Mr. Duffy would not be a good soccer player, right? Or football player. You have to be present to be your best. So it's very, very simple. I told a story at the workshop that I did for the women about a woman who saw an advertisement at a meditation center, and the advertisement said, "Enlightenment in 1 day guaranteed." Well, she was up for that. So she goes, "Is this true?" And the meditation teacher said, "Absolutely. Enlightenment in 1 day, and we guarantee it." So she said, "Okay, sign me up." And she sits down with her teacher and she goes, "What do I have to do?" And he says, "For 1 day, you just sit and you follow your breath. And nothing else. Just follow your breath for 1 day." She goes, "Sure, I got that." She sits down and she starts following her breath. She's noticing how her breath feels when she breathes in and when she breathes out, and getting into the rhythm of it. And outside the window, a huge bang as a car backfires driving by. And she said, my gosh, they need to set this further away from the road. Don't they know that people are meditating in here? And noises like that, that just ruins the meditation. And then she realizes she's not following her breath. But she does what she's told, and no criticism. She comes back to the breath, and she's noticing the breath and how it feels when she breathes in and when she breathes out. And a fly lands on her nose. And she's thinking, okay, if I flick the fly away, people will see, and that's not good, but I can't meditate with this fly. Why did who left the windows open? And on, and the fly flies away. So then she starts following her breath again. And then she got it. That even if she completed the day, she wouldn't have been following her breath all day. So she came back another time to practice another day, and now 7 years later she's doing better at it, and she's still trying to get enlightenment in one day. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote that the present moment, the one we find through mindfulness practice, the present moment is the only moment available to us, and it is the door to all moments. Namaste.